Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the Eisenhower's Gift 5-part mini-series on how to become more productive. If you are here right now, then you are someone who wants to accomplish more in your life, have a bigger impact, but use less resources to get it done. Not always have to be so stretched and so overwhelmed just because you want to accomplish something great. If you're that person, then you, my friend, are in the exact right place at the exact right time. My name is Michael Bridgman, and I'm a multi-business owner entrepreneur. And I was trapped. I was struggling. I was buried underneath a pile of my projects and to-do lists until a few years ago when I freed myself from being a trapped business owner to being a freed entrepreneur. And now I live a life of flexibility and time freedom. And I want to share with you some of the key ways in which I was able to crank up my productivity, how much I was able to get accomplished more efficiently. Now, this is part 2 of a 5-part mini-series. So if you haven't had a chance to watch part 1 yet, bounce back, find it on my YouTube channel or find it in your email. Find part 1 because that's where I'm going to introduce all the different topics and exactly what we're going to cover in this particular series. But this is part 2. And in part 2, we're going to debunk 2 predominant myths about what productivity is all about and about things that people buy into about productivity that we're going to shred, we're going to trash. Because if you're buying into these things, if you're believing them, then it's probably one of the reasons you're feeling stuck today. And then eventually in part number 4 of this series, we're going to get to the Eisenhower Matrix. That's why we call this series the Eisenhower's Gift, because the great late President Eisenhower gave us an incredible tool, a very powerful time efficiency and focus productivity tool, and we call it the Eisenhower Matrix. And I'm going to dive into that in part number 4. But before we get there, there are some certain productivity myths that I need to help you purge from your perspective. I need to help you get rid of from your ideology, because if you still hang on to these pieces, then unfortunately, when we reveal how Eisenhower's Matrix works, I don't think you're going to find it as effective as it possibly could be. And it has been one of my secret weapons to getting more done with less time for many, many years now. But before we jump into the Matrix in part number 4, let's finish debunking some of these myths that we're going to tackle in number 2. So I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. Eisenhower's Gift, part number 2. So don't mind me for a second here, my friends. I'm just going to make sure that I don't go over time. So putting on, there we go. All right. Eisenhower's Gift, part number 2. So in part number 1, my friends, we introduced the topic and we discussed the 5 different productivity myths that we are going to be debunking in this series. So myth number 1, accomplishing more equals being more productive. We dealt with that myth in part number 1. In part number 2 today, we're going to tackle myths number 2 and myths number 3. So let me just go over here and grab I'm going to do green today. There we go. Okay. So we got this one done. We crossed this one off of our list. Bam. So myth number 1 is done. We're going to move on to myth number 2 and myth number 3 today. So the real truth about multitasking, that's what that says. For anybody who's having trouble reading my writing, it says multitasking. And myth number 3, maximizing every moment. So my friends, let's start here in myth number 2, which is the real truth about multitasking. So if you're anything like me, you believe in the idea that multitasking is important and crucial probably to getting more things done. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is truth to that and there is myth to that. So what I'm going to go into what some of the things are that you should be multitasking and you could be multitasking, and I'm going to go into some of the few things that you shouldn't be multitasking. All right. So first things first, multitasking is the idea of attempting to do 2 things at one time. First off, you can't. The brain doesn't really multitask. It doesn't actually do it. All right. You don't truly multitask on any type of focus. If you're busy working on a math problem, you can't actually also write a small essay. If you're busy, let's say, brushing your teeth, I don't think you can probably actually also comb your hair. All right. If you're busy checking your email, you're probably not also able to respond to your team member who's standing in front of you asking you a question. Multitasking is technically Not possible. So first things first, okay, let's jump back over to my screen and just be clear. Multitasking isn't possible. They've done a ton of studies on this, all right? And multitasking is not possible. There are those of you who say, oh, I could do multiple things at once. No, you're actually doing multiple things on their own, just in rapid succession. So in other words, don't confuse rapid succession with multitasking. Okay, they're not one and the same thing. It's great. I mean, I applaud those people who can do rapid succession items. It's awesome, but they're not the same thing. When we multitask, we tend to shift our focus. And they've done a bunch of studies, and they've proven that depending on the person, it takes between 15 and 25 minutes for us to technically really change our gears and shift our focus. Think about that. 15, hang on a second. I can't write. There we go. 15 to 25 minutes to change true focus. So if you're busy in a task, all right, let's say you're in the midst of answering emails for a bunch of sales emails for clients, okay? So you're in the midst of answering these emails, and what a team member walks into your office, asks you a question. I'll bet right now that you could probably put a timer on your table. And if it's a reasonably in-depth question, you push that timer, and it will be another 15 minutes before you can actually strategically dive back into those emails that you were writing. We are being torn apart in our productivity by our shifting of focus constantly. And this is the problem with multitasking. This is the problem with multitasking. You can't go back and forth. You're constantly getting caught between your attention and your focus. And they've proven many times over that at that 25 to 40-minute mark is when you're at your peak level of focus on a specific task. Peak level of focus, 25 to 40 minutes. So what's happening if you're being interrupted constantly? What's happening if you're constantly shifting between Facebook, email, Excel spreadsheets, QuickBooks, like I was? I speak from experience. I would have several windows open on my computer. I would be going back and forth, and I'd get to work at 8 o'clock, noon. I go, it's lunchtime, and I would think, I haven't got anything done. Well, of course not. I'm busy leapfrogging from one focus to the next focus to the next focus. And I'm completely fracturing my ability to dive in on something and actually get it done. So here's a couple of quick tips. A, put a sign on your office door. Busy for the next 45 minutes. Unless the place is burning down, don't knock on my door, right? Isolate your time. Be cognizant of it. The other tip, close the windows. I don't mean the windows outside. I mean all those windows that you have open on your screen, even possibly right now, close those out. In fact, right now, you might be playing this YouTube clip in the background while you're checking your Facebook, your Instagram, your email, something like that. Don't do that. If you really want to get the maximum benefit out of this particular 5-part series, take some notes. Take some notes. And that leads me into when multitasking does work. Because there are times, my friends, when multitasking does work. So my first career, you guys, was as an actor. Okay. So we're going to go down here. When multitasking does work. Multitasking does. So my first career was as a performance artist. I was an actor, and you have to memorize a lot of lines. And so we had this particular exercise, and this is when multitasking can work. So the exercise was, once you had your lines memorized, go do something mundane, stack chairs, what was the other thing? Oh, we'd stack books, right? We'd sort pens into different colors and recite your lines with a partner. So back and forth you'd go, You're reciting, you're bouncing lines back and forth, but you're doing a task. If you can do that task and recite your lines back and forth, you knew your lines, right? That's when multitasking can work, is when you combine a menial task, something that's taking up your physical body quite often, you can do by rote, and then you can let your mind and your creativity think on something else. So multitasking does work, for example, when you're driving and you listen to audiobooks or podcasts. That can work. When you take notes during a workshop or video series or course, video series like this one. Okay, these are all times when it can work. When you are doing the dishes and you're talking or connecting with family. My wife and I have some of our best conversations when I'm busy doing the dishes, right? There are times when multitasking really, really works to your benefit, in fact, because all of these tasks are menial physical tasks. And why is that important? Because what it does is it takes your subconscious mind and gets it on a task, gets it doing something, and it allows your creative brain to come forward. It allows a lot of these thoughts to really sink in. When I'm driving, sometimes I love just to go on a 90-minute drive. I just go on a drive and I enjoy the road, and I turn on a great book and I soak up so much of that book. When it's tough for me to listen to that book is when I'm doing other projects around the office, when I'm doing other things. Why? Because I can't just listen to the book and soak stuff in, because I've got to spend some time focused on other physical things. So multitasking can really work, my friends, when you use it to ultimately quiet your subconscious mind a bit, quiet that id, and just allow your creative brain to come forward. That's when multitasking can really work. Some of my best ideas have come in the shower, right? They've come while I'm driving. They've come while I'm busy doing a menial task. I remember I had a great idea while I was actually chopping wood when I was on a camping trip. Right? Something physical, something menial distracting me. And I had a brilliant idea come to me that worked out really, really well for my family. So these are the types of things when multitasking can really, really, really work. Very powerful, very effective. But multitasking in your everyday life, when you're attempting to do two things that require some serious focus, I'm sorry to tell you that is a complete myth. Multitasking does not make you more productive. In fact, it often does the opposite. It completely diffuses your productivity and fractures your focus. All right. So let's dive into now myth number 3. We're going to dive into myth number 3. Yeah, we'll grab our pen here. Myth number 3, which is maximizing every moment. So I have a really great friend of mine, and he has sort of mastered this art form of always filling his day to the utmost, like everything. He's super regimented, he's super rhythmic, and he was able to pack everything in. And I remember when we lived in Victoria during university, he would get things down to, like, he'd say, okay, the bus is going to be here at this particular time. If we leave our house and walk down there, it's 18 minutes. And the bus arrives at 11:20. We can leave here at 11:02. We get there right when the bus arrives, which means I can maximize my time spent doing this other thing before we have to leave. He was focused on this. And he wound up getting really depressed. He wound up falling into a pretty dark space, because he was at this real crossroads with himself, where he was battling this idea that if he wasn't filling his day, if he wasn't filling every waking moment on task, in action, heading towards something, then he was failing. And I watched as this incredible human being fell into this very powerful funk that drew him in like a black hole. And he wound up getting really quite sad and pretty down. It cost him a relationship. And it was all based on this fear of missing out. Okay. It was all based on this idea that maximizing every moment is really about the innate fear that we have, the innate FOMO, fear of missing out, that if we're not maximizing every second and every minute, that somehow we're going to be letting our life slip past us. And holy smokes, is this something that we as entrepreneurs fall into the trap of all the time, isn't it? Right? Oh, if I don't grab this offer, right? A lot of the gurus have got us to buy whatever it is they're selling because they make an offer and there's a ton of fear of missing out about this offer, right? We think about this when it comes to our staff and our team, right? We're looking for them to always be on task, right? Always be on task. And we're going to have this fear that our dollars aren't spent efficiently and effectively if they're not maximizing every moment of their time working for the company. We have this when it comes to even vacations for some of us, right? If you're an overachiever, then chances are you've spent time on vacations buried in a business book or a personal development book or watching videos like this one or something like that. You know, this goes back to the multitasking. We have this idea that if we're not multitasking, right, we're losing out on ground. If we're not multitasking, in other words, if we're not at our desk and also listening to inspirational stuff or watching a video like this at the same time as doing some of our other work, that we're falling behind. Pardon me. We have this, sorry, everybody. We have this fear of missing out. And it's this desire to maximize. Okay, better. Maximize all of the the seconds and the moments that we have in life, because we know that life is short, and yet it's the longest thing we ever do. Sorry, I think about my buddy and I get a little upset. So he's better, by the way. He's much better, but it was a dark time. It was a very dark time for him. And but he's in a much happier place, not like that, but he is now able to take a lot of time off. He works maybe 6 to 9 months out of the year and then has a lot of space for the other people in his life and the things he cares most about. So he got over this problem, but a lot of it came from fear of missing out. So if you believe that maximizing every moment, filling everything, cramming everything, taking, like, having a schedule, you guys, and you've got all your time increments along here, and you're busy, and you've got all these spots on your schedule, and you're busy going, okay, I got this spot filled, and I got to butt right up against this one, and then I've got another meeting right in here, then another one here, and then I've got my, I've got my workout in here, and this is what some people's schedules are like. And I got this spot here and this spot here, and they think this is being productive when they pack this whole thing. The whole thing is full. The whole thing is full. They have this look on their face like, yes, this is me at my most productive. I've jammed everything in there. But the truth of the matter is a lot of the time when we're operating at that type of 6,000 RPM sort of speed, well, this vehicle right here, this sucker up here, this part in here, that's not what it's built for. And over time, you won't be productive anymore. You'll just be on task. You won't be accomplishing more. You'll just be knocking things off your to-do list. You won't be a better person. You won't have a greater impact because you're not giving anything or anybody any space in that schedule. So one of the big myths of productivity, my friends, is that you have to maximize every moment. And that is an absolute fallacy. The greatest achievements that I've had in my life, and some of the people that I've had a chance to interview and talk to that are far more successful than I am, the greatest achievements in their life came from having this space to be at peace and not worrying about filling every moment with something to do. Their greatest achievements came when they were at peace and they could see the 30,000-foot view. They could see all the pieces on the chessboard and therefore know exactly what pieces to move and when to move them. So if you're the type of person that is constantly looking to fill your day to the gunnels, well, then I would encourage you to practice giving yourself some space, giving yourself some freedom in that schedule, because I will bet that if you do that and you give yourself permission, you'll find new ideas and brand new ways to focus and become far more productive than if you stayed simply trapped in a schedule that is tip to tail, completely delegated, completely laid out. Because your productivity comes from energy. It comes from focus and energy. And one of the chief ways I find that people procrastinate is they just make themselves busy. In other words, they attempt to maximize every moment. So don't let yourself be trapped by FOMO. Give yourself the time and the space it takes to become the best version of you. And don't shatter this belief that you have to maximize every moment in your life in order to be the most productive. All right, my friends. So this is going to conclude part number 2 of our Eisenhower's Gift 5-part series. We have covered off the real truth behind multitasking, how to use it and when to use it, and when it's not useful. And we've discussed today why maximizing every moment is not helpful in becoming more productive. Now, on part number 3, we're going to be tackling myth number 4 and myth number 5. We're going to be diving into those things. So part number 3 of Eisenhower's Gift is going to be tackling those particular things. But this has been Eisenhower's Gift part 2. I want to say thank you so much for watching this particular this part of the series. And part number 3, we're going to be diving into those 2 more myths. And then part number 4, don't forget, we're going to be jumping into Eisenhower's Matrix and how to use it most effectively. So once again, I want to say thank you so much for watching this. If you liked what you saw today and got great value, click on that subscribe button. Give us a notification link. We'll let you know when the 3rd part is out. Thank you again so much for watching this. My name is Michael Bridgman. You are fabulous. You are amazing. If you got good value, hit a BAMO button. Type BAMO in the comment section down below. And until next time, my friends, have fun, be more, and love lots. Ciao for now, everybody.